ne bobo tebwazinga nga speaker yalagira waliwo enjawulo wakati wa speaker ne parliament era abakola amateeka bagakola mu bwegendereza muyinza okufuna speaker nga bulina kwabako ekimunyiza naga nti awo mukyuse yensonga lwaki waliwo okubeera resolution ya parliament nga nti kati tugende tukyuse mu mateeka amateeka ga parliament rules of procedure ziri mu constitution nsonga nkulu si nsonga yakuzanya ekineewunyisiza campaign zigenda maaso ebula omwezi gumu parliament ene gweko waliwo okutya Honorable Kadaga ne tiimu ye batidde nnyo campaign kati baagala kukyusa amateeka agakola ebyembi amateeka ge baleeta bagaleetedde mu rules of procedure ezifuga ababaka ba parliament atannabakulayira tezimufuga n'olwekyo toyinza kugamba nti gwolesa amateeka agagenda okufuga okulonda kwa speaker ate ogaleetedde mu rules of procedure. Rules of procedure zifuga babaka ba parliament. Komiti egambye nti campaign zijja kubanga za kyama simanyi babaagala tufuuke basezi tugende tukonkone ku bisenge nga babaka beebase nti wayi gy'oli nti mbadde nsaba kalulu ridiculous teri ye muntu asobola kukola proposal bwetyo nga lawyer naye kikabatanda ne bagayisa tujja bimalira mu kooti zekyama ninze tubulye bwe tunazikola oba tugenda ku madirisa ababaka nga beebase ekirono muga wayi sabayo akalulu neewuunyiza nti komiti yekuliko ba lawyer naye katubalinze kebageza ne bagayisa tujja kusibira mu kooti batya campaign zifuuse nzibusize eziri ze baali balooza ne bigenda kubyenneenya abawagizi ba Honorable Kadaga campaign bazitidde.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The chairperson has cited the rule 172(1)(c. According to this rule, the review will be done by order of the House. My understanding of the order of the House is that there will be motion and Parliament will vote on it to order. The chairperson says on the directive of the Speaker. The procedure issue I am raising is whether the chairperson can go ahead to conduct work not ordered by the House as the rule provides, but as instructed by the Speaker. That's the procedure issue I am raising. Honourable members, the Speaker is the custodian of the rules of this House. And over time, we have identified areas that need to be amended. That's why we asked the committee to go and make some proposals. So the proposals have come to this House. You'll study them, discuss them, and they will be amended according to what will be the outcome of the House. Proceed with the report, Honourable Chair.
Whether the Speaker in this case becomes the House. And that's the guidance I am seeking from you. Because the subject matter is a very serious matter concerning this Parliament. And therefore we need to follow our rules as they are written. Otherwise, to disregard the rules as they are and to bring more, for me, doesn't make sense. So the procedure issue I am raising, Madam Speaker, is for you to interpret whether the Speaker has become the House, and therefore we are now working not on the order of the House but on the directive of the Speaker.
Honourable Member, proceed. Yes, Honourable Chairman.
Jim Mwezi yayitirira nnyo okwagala gavumenti ya Mwami Museveni n'okwagala nnyo Mwami Museveni n'alowooza nti alina obuvunaanyizibwa bw'okuwolerezanga ne byatateekwa kuwolereza kubanga yakafuuka minisita wa security. Okwemulugunya kutulugunya abantu n'okubatwala mu bifo mwe basibibwa nga kibiri mu mateeka tekitandise na Jim Mwezi. Kibaddewo okuva dda ku Unruly Mukasa nga minisita wa security okuva mu myaka kati gisukka ne 15 emabega. Kaka wabeeredde mu ISO abaka Parliament aba komiti ya Human Rights bagendako ekyengera nga gye basibira abantu abalala basibira ku bizinga. Kati kyali Uganda inamu kubuusabuusa nti gavumenti egenda nepangisa amayumba ng'omulimu gugakola ogusinga obukulu kubiramu bantu na kubakweka abantu bawe butabalaba. Ebitongole ebya security omuli police omuli ISO n'amagye bitulugunya abantu ne bibasibira mu mayumba ge bayita torture houses. Ugamba nga Jimbo aba nsaasira byabadde ayogera nabo kuba kati yonzimba sikyasobola muwuliriza. Naye kati yayitirira nnyo okwagala gavumenti alowooza nti buli kimu balina okiwolereza n'okusiriwaza abo b'oyogera nabo. Ekitongole kiramuzi ne poliisi gagamba bw'oba okutta omuntu ne bw'oba omuvunaana musango gusingayo obunene, ekisooka poliisi eyinza omukwata n'emala naye essaawa ezisasuka 48 n'omutwala mu kkooti n'omuvunaana n'oleeta obujulizi. Ebibonerezo byonna Constitution, Penal Code n'amateeka amalala gabiwa. Gwe tumuwa ekibonerezo nga ggwe because omusango gw'abazze abataguzizza ku ggwe. Oli bw'aba ayagala kulya mu nsiruko kujja ku gavumenti kutta abantu, kwata bakazi, emisango mwegiri. Mulimu emisango n'eminene ebibonerezo mwebiri nimaamu n'ekyokuwanika ku kalabba. Naye omuntu bw'omutwala n'omukuba n'omukunyulamu enjala n'omukuba omugongo n'ogusaanyaawo, kiba kitegeeza nti olinga atalina bujulizi oba olinga nga kisolo, kuba ebisolo byo tebirina kkooti. Bwe binyiiga empologoma ng'erya envubu. Kakati abantu abali mu bitongole ebikuumadde mu Uganda baafuuka nga bisolo. Eyo twavaayo dda tukyasobola kubeera ng'omuntu akuzizzaako omusango okwata jambiya. No, tekikyasobola kukola gye batuzizza.
The fourth schedule of our constitution has a number of oaths that leaders are supposed to take when they are taking offices. They include the oath of a member of parliament, which every one of us took. And Madam, if you allow me, because the procedural issue I'm raising relates to this oath, because we all took the oath to swear in the name of the Almighty that we will be and give faithful service to this Parliament and support and uphold the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. My procedural issue is on upholding the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Madam Speaker, this week there are festivities to remember the day a rebel group attacked a military barracks at Kabamba when the UPC government was in power. You can see my friend, Honorable Amongi. A rebel group attacked the barracks of Uganda. And as a result, we have this week the military remembering. Under Article 208209210, the makers of the Constitution did not want to be reminded of that bitter history, and therefore created an army called Uganda People's Defense Forces, which started after the promulgation of the 1995 Constitution. Today, we have an army created by this Constitution, celebrating and remembering when an illegal militia raided the barracks. Two, Madam Speaker, under this Constitution in 2005, a referendum was held and multi-party democracy was restored. The National Resistance Movement was the second party to register. And I remember the Honorable Bidandi Sari and Hachigongo went to register NRM. But last week, there was a group claiming that NRM is 36 years and they spent taxpayers' money to remember the day NRM was born. Yet under this Constitution, NRM was born in 2005. There is no any other NRM that is legal under our Constitution. The procedural issue I'm raising, since we took an oath to uphold the Constitution, because everybody who went to those functions went there illegally, Can the Attorney General, Madam Speaker, and you guide this Parliament whether it will not be breaking this Constitution for a national army that was formed under this Constitution to organize and participate in activities remembering an illegal act of invading the barracks of Uganda? And two, whether taxpayers' money can be spent on celebrating a day of a non-existing entity, because NRM was born in 2005, registered by Haji Moses Chigongo and Honorable Bidandi Sari. The other one is not registered, it's not anywhere in the official books of Uganda. Madam Speaker.
Honorable, an army that is celebrating.
Madam Speaker, I have said the UPDF created under the UPDF Act. I have seen them, they are in high gear, remembering a day, the national resistance movement, which was outlawed by the Constitution.
But you appreciate that the celebrations are being headed by UPDF, which is a legal entity?
Yes, Madam. UPDF is a Ugandan army.
Uganda is,
so
UPDF
they are now participating in remembering an illegal activity.
They are celebrating their origin, where they came from. They are celebrating where they came from, just like you always celebrate where you started your birthday. So they are celebrating their birthday. And
because this minister, after a long wait, this is what she has brought. After a long wait. Now you are telling her to go back. I don't know what she will bring. I think this is the right time to be a minister, because there are no obligations on the shoulders of ministers. The minister has said one of the solutions is to go and procure land. Masaka. And we've been waiting here, Madam Speaker. You said, okay, you had actually promised to have quite some. This Parliament should entrust the same minister to go and improve. You see, if you asked an average student, even at all, it would be ready in 30 minutes. These drivers of inflation, the problems that are happening in the world today, not proposals of procuring land in Masaka and begin planting palm oil. So my fear, Madam Speaker, as we allow the same minister to go and look for solutions, is whether this Parliament is not risking assigning the same person to do the work that they have failed, Madam Speaker.
I was addressing.
Mr. Speaker, I am raising in relation to Rule 49. My understanding is that all these matters of national importance are being raised there. Mr. Speaker, this rule restricts what can be raised as a matter of public. In fact, the word is public. Most of the issues being raised are constituency. Maybe we need to amend the rules. But on the issue, because the rule requires, Mr. Speaker, the rule requires government to deal with these matters because they are of public importance and they are urgent. The issue of dressing, and the colleague that stood up started with giving a background of religion. In my faith, she is also indecently dressed, in my faith. In my faith. I have seen, Mr. Speaker, I have gone to Karamoja to do parliamentary work. I have found there are people who are not dressed the way people in Uganda dress. In my constituency, I have seen people from Bugisu wrestling down adults, undress them, and do circumcision in public. And maybe in their area, it is decent. So the procedural issue I am raising in relation to 49 is whether matters that are not of public importance that require an immediate answer from government, that are also controversial and have no standards in the country, Mr. Speaker, should be raised under this rule. Because at the end of the day, if you have no standard as a country that this is, the cloth must be this length, this long, this size, how can that be so urgent, and which answer does our colleague require from government? So I am just requesting you, Mr. Speaker, to help us understand what can be raised under order.
Thank you. Right on.
I thought, and I want to agree with both the chair and the minister, because if we pass the 7 that has the board shall by regulations prescribe the procedure for making voluntary contribution and benefits, my own feeling is that everything to do with voluntary contribution should be left there. The board may determine when they want them to leave, such that after the board has taken decisions to guide, you then make a decision whether you start voluntary contribution or not, so that you don't subject statutory contribution to voluntary. So we can leave them in just one section of the law, introducing them and giving the board the responsibility to deal with all their affairs. Appointed overall head of an institution, but all the functions were vested in someone else. The Honorable Betty Among, and I can see her conflicted, because the appointing authority does not want her ministry, not you as a person, but does not want your ministry to be the overall supervisor of NSSF. So that's why you are now emasculating it, while accepting to supervise by taking away everything. Mr. Speaker, I was a member of NSSF until I came to this parliament. That institution has suffered of multiple supervision. And the reason finance wants it, they want to access that money, borrow it the way they like, determine how to borrow it. But also, Mr. Speaker, I am really shocked by the way this government works, even the things that are administrative. You in gender, if you want expertise from finance, must you put it in the law? I assume that, first of all, you gender, all the technical people who are there are competent, accountants, and you have all of them. What does finance have in terms of technical people that you gender don't have? Don't you have accountants? Don't you have economists? The idea, this is trickery. That they surrender NSSF to Ministry of Finance, so they begin accessing this money the way they have been doing.
No, a member shall not be permitted to suggest improper motive to another. The rules say so. I'm just restating them.
Mr. Speaker, if that was the implication of my statement, I apologize. I am expressing fears because we know how NSSF has been running. The fear is that the minister, you can imagine, these amendments are 10. This whole list. Everywhere there is minister, she says, now we move, put finance. So for you, what are you going to supervise? If everything is you are sending it to finance, what are you going to supervise? Is it the buildings or the vehicles? Because, this amendment is crazy. From where it starts, everything finance.
Honorable Minister, is your amendment?
I thought, and I want to agree with both the chair and the minister, Because if we pass the 7 that has the board shall by regulations prescribe the procedure for making voluntary contribution and benefits, my own feeling is that everything to do with voluntary contribution should be left there. The board may determine when they want them to leave, such that after the board has taken decisions to guide, you then make a decision whether you start voluntary contribution or not, so that you don't subject statutory contribution to voluntary. So we can leave them in just one section of the law, introducing them and giving the board the responsibility to deal with all their affairs. Appointed overall head of an institution, but all the functions were vested in someone else. The Honorable Betty Among, and I can see her conflicted, because the appointing authority does not want her ministry, not you as a person, but does not want your ministry to be the overall supervisor of NSSF. So that's why you are now emasculating it, while accepting to supervise but taking away everything. Mr. Speaker, I was a member of NSSF until I came to this parliament. That institution has suffered of multiple supervision. And the reason finance wants it, they want to access that money, borrow it the way they like, determine how to borrow it. But also, Mr. Speaker, I am really shocked by the way this government works, even the things that are administrative. You in gender, if you want expertise from finance, must you put it in the law? I assume that, first of all, you gender, all the technical people who are there are competent, accountants, and you have all of them. What does finance have in terms of technical people that you gender don't have? Don't you have accountants? Don't you have economists? The idea, this is trickery. That they surrender NSSF to Minister of Finance, so they begin accessing this money the way they have been doing.
No, a member shall not be permitted to suggest improper motive to another. The rules say so. I'm just restating them.
Mr. Speaker, if that was the implication of my statement, I apologize. I am expressing fears because we know how NSSF has been running. The fear is that the minister, you can imagine, these amendments are 10. This whole list. Everywhere there is minister, she says, now we move, put finance. So for you, what are you going to supervise? If everything is you are sending it to finance, what are you going to supervise? Is it the buildings or the vehicles? Because, I mean, this amendment is crazy. From where it starts, everything finance.
Honorable Minister, is your amendment.
Honorable members, it is free sitting.
Madam Speaker, you know, my friend, the Honorable Bahati.
There is a procedural matter on.
Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker, you know my friend, the Honorable Bahati, I know his appetite for borrowing. But there are ministers who are assigned to superintend on the sector of finance. And I don't know the reason why the Honorable Bahati was removed. The procedural issue I am raising, because Madam Speaker, you did not tell us that they have asked you for permission or he has been now designated, is whether the former minister for borrowing, the Honorable Bahati, Madam Speaker, whether we are proceeding well to have a former minister of borrowing, again tabling motions for borrowing, even when he has been moved away from that sector.
Honorable member, on the front bench can be assigned to move a motion. I got an apology from the senior minister, Honorable Kasaija, and the junior ministers. They're in a workshop, and the Prime Minister is here. She's the leader of all the ministers. She's the one who has delegated Honorable Bahati, but I have never seen Honorable Bahati borrow for himself. He does not borrow money for himself. And he is not the minister of borrowing. We don't have a ministry in the name of ministry for borrowing. Honorable Bahati, go ahead.
So we have to forgive him. The object
You're
of
forgiven.
Yes. The object of this loan is to establish a national backbone infrastructure in major towns of Uganda where the backbone has not reached, to connect all government ministries in a single wide area network, to establish a government data center, establish district information center, and support the efforts of government in establishing and consolidating e-government, and also establish district information centers where they have not been. Madam Speaker, the Committee of National Economy has looked at this loan and is ready to report to this House. I beg to move.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister.
Your attention and the attention of the House. Madam Speaker, I want to draw your attention and the attention of Parliament to Rule 155. 155(7) sets out documents that are supposed to accompany a loan request for Parliament to process. Madam Speaker, these documents, or some of the documents, have not been presented by the minister assigned. But also the Constitution requires that terms of the loans are supposed to be, in fact, it's probably supposed to look at them when they have been cleared by the Attorney General. I am aware, Madam Speaker, the Attorney General has not cleared and reviewed this particular loan request. And all these are supposed to be read, because the only proof that he has done so is by evidence of his letter that and read together with the request. That these particular terms I went through and they are okay. They were never read here. Also, impact assessment is not there. The procedure issue I am raising, Madam Speaker, is whether this Parliament can also quietly begin processing a loan, knowing that the statutory requirements set out in our rules and also the constitutional obligation have not been met, especially on loans that are project related.
Ssemujju, what you're raising is in anticipation. You've not had the chairperson. When you look at the review of documents, 3.2, it tells you all the documents that the committee received, and these documents are supposed to be laid to the committee. And the committee has not told you that they did not receive any document. And secondly, you've not looked at the file that is being laid. You're just speaking in anticipation. The chair is, the motion that has been brought here is seeking to borrow. And by the time the committee approves or makes a report without even a minority report, that means they were satisfied with whatever was provided for in the committee. Chair, can you go ahead? When you look at 3.2 on review of documents, it will give you all of that. Attorney General, did you give authorization to borrow? Did you clear? It was presented in the committee, it was cleared. Can we hear the report? Then you will debate the report.
There is no clearance from the Attorney General. I have speak as a whip of a political party. I assigned people to a committee.
Attorney General is here.
Yes. There is no impact assessment that the committee has looked at.
No, What was agreed in the committee vis-a-vis what has been read.
But also, Madam Speaker, two other rules. If a member of the committee raises issues of authenticity of the report, then the report under our rule is supposed to be subjected to investigation. Two, in our rules, if he has disagreement with the main report, he must write a minority report.
He is not raising on issues of authenticity, it is on content. It is just a simple thing. Neither you and I,